Hello everyone, this is Ispreet Academy. We are discussing about human circulatory system. In the previous video, we discussed about general facts about human circulatory system, external structure of heart, closed and dual circulation and great blood vessels of heart. In this video, we will be discussing about the other important subtopics in human circulatory system. Watch the previous video before you proceed further. Now, we will see the internal structure of the heart. We will cut the heart open. Superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. These two blood vessels, they collect deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body and they bring it to this part of the heart. This part is called right atrium. So both of them, they leave the blood in the right atrium, and this is right atrium. And from the right atrium, the blood will enter inside the right ventricle, the lower chamber of the heart. And here you can find from the right atrium, the blood, it enters inside the right ventricle. Here you can find cardiac tendinae, a fiber-like structures, the muscles. Cardiac tendinae could be found here. Here you can find a tricuspid valve. The blood will move from right atrium to right ventricle. The movement of the blood here is controlled by this tricuspid valve. This cardiac tendinae will not allow the tricuspid valve to bend upward. This is the right auricle, this is right ventricle, and here you would find cardiac tendinae, and this side you can find left auricle and left ventricle, and here you can find cardiac tendinae, and here you can find bicuspid valve. It is always known as mitral valve. This valve allows the blood to flow from left auricle to left ventricle. The heart is surrounded by a membrane called pericardial membrane. This is right auricle and this is left auricle. Both are separated by interauricular septum. This is right ventricle and this is left ventricle. Both are separated by interventricular septum. Blood enters inside through vena cava. From here, the blood enters inside right ventricle through tricuspid valve, and from here the blood enters inside the lungs. It comes out and goes to the lungs, and this valve is called pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery, it will divide into right and left. So right will go to the right lung, left will go to the left lung. This is the only artery which carries deoxygenated blood in our body. So deoxygenated blood leaves the heart through this pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery, it divides into two. So this left side, it will enter inside the left lung, and right side will enter inside the right lung. And inside the lung, the blood is oxygenated, and the oxygenated blood will enter inside the heart through the pulmonary veins. So it will reach this left atrium. This is left atrium. From left atrium, blood will enter inside left ventricle. From left ventricle, the blood will enter inside this aorta. This is the biggest blood vessel that we have in our body. So it comes to this aorta. From here, the blood will go to different parts of the body. Let's talk about the valves present in the heart. There are totally 4 valves present inside the heart. The first one, tricuspid valve. Another one, mitral valve. This is aortic semilunar valve. and this one pulmonary semilunar valve. This tricuspid valve is present in between the right auricle and right ventricle. Mitral valve or bicuspid valve is present in between the left auricle and left ventricle, and semilunar valves are present in pulmonary veins as well as in the starting point of aorta. Blood from right auricle enters inside right ventricle through this tricuspid valve. When the ventricle contracts, this valve will close. If this valve closes, blood from the ventricle cannot go inside the auricle. Instead, the blood present in the right ventricle will move inside the pulmonary artery. From this, it will go to the lungs. And from the lungs, oxygenated blood will enter inside this left auricle. From left auricle, the blood will move inside left ventricle through this mitral valve or bicuspid valve. Again, when the ventricle contracts, blood from the ventricle, left ventricle, it will move inside the aorta. And when the ventricle contracts, this bicuspid valve will close. So, if it is closed, the blood from the left ventricle will not move inside left auricle. Instead, the blood will move inside this aorta, and from here it will go to different parts of the body. These are the valves present inside the heart, and their main function is preventing backflow of the blood inside the heart. Now we move on to blood vessels. Heart is like a motor. The motor pumps the blood to another place through pipelines. Similarly, this heart, it pumps the blood to different parts of the body through the blood vessels. Arteries are the blood vessels which carry oxygenated blood to different parts of the body, and they branch out into small minute tubes. Those tubes are called arterioles. Similarly, the veins, they branch out into minute tubular structures, and those tubular structures are called venules. And these arterioles, once again, they branch out into thin hair-like blood vessels, and those tubular structure, minute tubular structures are called capillaries. And these capillaries, they join together and they form venules, and these venules, they are connected with veins. These are the different types of blood vessels we have in our body. Now let us discuss some of the important blood vessels that carry oxygenated blood as well as deoxygenated blood. This is the head region, shoulder, arms, and chest region, abdomen region, and the leg region. So, different parts of the body. We have different organs in different parts, and first you take this head region and arms, the upper part of the body. There is an important artery which carries oxygenated blood to upper part of the body. That artery is called carotid artery. This is the artery that carries oxygenated blood to the upper parts. And these carotid arteries, they branch out into minute tubular structures called capillaries. Again, those capillaries, they join together and they form veins. The veins which collect deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body, they bring the deoxygenated blood to the superior vena cava, and this superior vena cava brings the blood to the right auricle. The next important organ in our body is the liver. So, here the oxygenated blood from the heart is brought to liver through an artery called hepatic artery. The deoxygenated blood from the liver is collected by a special vein called hepatic vein, and this vein it is connected to the inferior vena cava. The other important organ we have in our body is kidney. There are two kidneys and a special artery that carries oxygenated blood to the kidney. They are called renal artery, and the deoxygenated blood from the kidney is collected by another special vein called renal vein. The renal vein collects deoxygenated blood from kidney, and this vein is also connected to inferior vena cava. There is another special artery called a femoral artery. Femoral artery brings oxygenated blood to the lower part of the body, the hip region, leg region, abdomen region. For this particular region, oxygen is supplied by femoral artery, and the deoxygenated blood from this part are collected by a special vein called femoral vein. The femoral vein collects deoxygenated blood from the lower part of our body and bring it to heart. So these are all the important arteries and veins that supply oxygen to different parts of the body, as well as they collect deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body and bring it to heart. Now we will discuss the internal structure of artery, vein and capillary. Look at the picture of artery. It has an outer wall as well as elastic muscle tissue inside, and the innermost part we can find an empty space, a cavity. It is called lumen. This lumen is small here. This is the structure of artery. Now come to this vein. Veins also have an outer wall, little bit of elastic muscular tissue as well as the lumen. Here it looks little bigger. And if you come to this capillary, the wall of the capillary is of one cell thick. Single cells are arranged in order and they form the wall of the capillaries. There is no tissue here, only cells are arranged in order and they form the wall of the capillary. And if you compare the wall of artery, vein and capillary, look at this, the wall in the artery, it is thick, and the next layer, the muscular layer, we can find it is little bigger and it is made up of muscular and elastic tissue. And if you compare the vein, the wall of the vein is a little thinner. The wall of the vein is thinner than the artery. Look at the shape here and this shape. The next layer is the elastic muscle tissue layer, and it is also less. It is lesser than the artery. And if you see the lumen, it is bigger, and come to this part. Here there is no tissue, only cells are arranged in order in the wall. No muscles and no elastic tissue in the capillary. Next, if you compare the size of the lumen, of course, here you can find the lumen is small and here it is large, if you compare these two. And here in the capillaries, it is very small in size. In the picture, it may look similar to this one. So we have not followed any scale here, but this is very thin, because the diameter of the capillary is lesser than the diameter of our hair. So it is very small. The next thing is, if you compare the cross section, it is circular in shape, the cross section, but here it looks oval, and this one again it looks circular. That is the cross section comparison. The next one is exchange of materials. As far as arteries and veins are concerned, no exchange will take place between arteries and the nearby cells. But here in the capillaries, exchange of materials will take place between the walls of the capillaries and the nearby cells and the tissues. From the capillaries, oxygen will be supplied to the nearby cells, and food material also will be supplied from the capillaries to the nearby cells, and carbon dioxide and waste materials from the nearby cells will be collected by the capillaries, and these capillaries will bring all those things to the veins. So, exchange of materials take place only in this capillary region. The next comparison is color. The arteries look red in color. The reason is it carries oxygenated blood. When the oxygenated blood enters inside capillaries, here it will have more oxygen, and here in the capillary region, exchange of gases and food material will take place here. The capillaries will supply oxygen to the nearby cells and tissues, and from the nearby cells and tissues they collect carbon dioxide and they bring it to venules, and from here the blood enters inside veins. So, the blood present in this area of the capillaries and in the vein, it will be bluish red in color. Next, we are going to compare the walls present in the blood vessels. If you see the internal structure of the artery, there will be no wall, only lumen is there, there is no wall inside. And if you see the veins, we can find a wall. In the lumen, we can find a wall. Again, this wall will prevent the backward flow of blood in the vein. And in capillaries, there is no wall. The pressure inside the artery is high. The reason is blood is pumped inside the artery by the heart directly. So, the pressure is higher, and when the blood enters inside arterioles, the blood pressure will get reduced. Once again, when the blood enters inside the veins, again the pressure will be low. The next comparison is blood transport. Arteries, they collect oxygenated blood from the heart and they supply to all the parts of the body. So, they transport oxygenated blood from heart to different organs of our body, and capillaries, they transport the blood from artery to veins. So, they are the connecting vessels, they are present in between arteries and veins, and these veins, they collect deoxygenated blood from different organs of our body, from different parts of our body, and they bring it to heart. Next comparison is blood type. What type of blood is carried by these blood vessels? We know very well that arteries collect oxygenated blood from the heart and they supply to different parts of the body. And in the first video we discussed in detail, there is one artery that carries deoxygenated blood, that is pulmonary artery. And if you see the capillaries, here in the arterioles, oxygen will be more, the concentration of oxygen will be more in the arterioles, and as they move inside the capillaries, slowly the oxygen level will decrease, because this oxygen will be supplied to the nearby cells and tissues, and from there carbon dioxide will be collected, and when the blood approaches these venules, carbon dioxide level will be more. So, that becomes deoxygenated blood, and veins, of course, they carry deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body, and they take deoxygenated blood to heart. Arteries are present deep inside the muscles. They are present inside the muscles, not on the upper surface. And the capillaries, of course, they move to different parts of our body, deep inside as well as to the surface. They enter to all the parts of our body and they supply oxygen and food material to all the cells and tissues. And veins, they are present near to the surface of the body. So, we have discussed all the important key points related to blood vessels, and of course, we have compared all the three types of blood vessels. Now, we move on to the next section. Here is the question for all of you to think. Describe the journey of blood inside the heart. Before you listen to the answer, every one of you take a notebook, write the answer, make a note of your own answer, and then you listen to the answer. This is the position of heart in our body. The blue color area represents the deoxygenated blood, and the red color area represents oxygenated blood. This area is completely filled with deoxygenated blood. This area is completely filled with oxygenated blood. Both the blood will not mix in the heart. They are very well separated. So you know very well that these are the blood vessels. They bring deoxygenated blood to the heart. They are the caval veins, inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. And they bring the deoxygenated blood to the first chamber, the right auricle. And from the right auricle, the blood will be pumped inside the right ventricle through this valve. Here there is a valve. This valve is known as tricuspid valve. And this valve will not allow the blood to come back to auricle, right auricle. It will block it. From the right ventricle, the blood will be pumped to our lungs through this pulmonary artery. These pulmonary arteries, they will carry the deoxygenated blood to both the lungs. And from the lungs, once again, the oxygenated blood will be brought back to the heart through these blood vessels. They are called pulmonary veins. Through the pulmonary veins, the oxygenated blood enters inside this left auricle. From the left auricle, the oxygenated blood will be pumped inside the left ventricle through this valve. This valve is called bicuspid valve. And through this bicuspid valve, it enters inside the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, the blood will be pumped to different parts of the body through this blood vessel, aorta. Question number 2. The diagram shows three types of blood vessels, 1, 2 and 3, not drawn to scale. Which of the following describes the features of each blood vessel? There are three options. Option A says that the first blood vessel allows exchange of materials, and the remaining two, they don't allow exchange of materials. Option B says the first two blood vessels don't allow exchange of materials, but the third one allows. Option C says the first blood vessel does not allow the exchange of materials, but second and third vessels allow the exchange of materials. Which one is the correct answer? So, before you think about the answer, you need to know what is the first blood vessel, what is the name of the second blood vessel, and the third one. So, the first blood vessel is the artery, second blood vessel is the vein, third blood vessel is the capillary. Find the correct answer and mention the correct answer in the description. Here is the question for discussion. The blood should not flow backward in the heart. Explain the reason. What is the answer that you think is correct can be mentioned in the description. We have come to the end of this part 2, and we are going to discuss the other important topics of human circulatory system in part 3. Blood cells and their functions, heartbeat, coronary heart disease, diffusion across capillaries, functions of circulatory system. All these things we will discuss in part 3. Don't forget to subscribe Ispreet Academy Continue watching part 3.